Before I've even shed my coat, chew on this. The most successful physicist who ever lived, the man whose name we say when we mean right about everything, looked at one plain prediction of the new physics and flatly refused to believe it.
Einstein. He had a word for it, with no warmth in it at all. Spooky. It smelled so wrong to him that he bet the back half of a long life it could not be real.
So what was it? The one thing that could rattle the Einstein? And, better yet, was he right to be rattled?
That is the whole of tonight. Because someone found a way to drag his bet out of the armchair and into a real room. And the answer came back, and it has never once wavered since. Tonight, we look dead straight at the one thing Einstein could not swallow.
There's a small wicked joy in it, and I'll not pretend there isn't. 12 weeks you've had me sat at the feet of these giants, and now you're marching one of the very biggest of them up to the front of the room to be, what, exactly, caught out?
Caught out about the reason, and dead right that something was rotten. That's the shape of the whole night, so hold it from the first. He smelled the smoke true, and pointed at the wrong fire. But we can't weigh his objection until you've met the thing itself. So set the giants down a moment. Let me hand you the quarry.
Hand it over then. What are we hunting this morning?
A word Schrödinger himself reached for when he watched it crawl out of his own equation, and it frightened even him. Entanglement. He didn't call it one of the odd features of the theory. He called it the feature. The trait that forces the whole strange business on you. The one that cuts hardest against the way you think the world is stitched together.
Frightened Schrödinger? His own equation? What did the man who wrote the thing see in it that turned his stomach?
Because it says two things can quietly stop being two. Everything you own, you know as separate items. This cup, that spoon, each with its own edges, its own private truth you could pin down without a glance at the other. And his own equation sat there and told him that two particles, handled right, can lose that separateness altogether. Not be far apart and joined by a wire. Be, in the deepest bookkeeping the world keeps, no longer quite two things at all. That's the floor going soft under a careful man's chair, and he never fully forgave it.
Entanglement. And you've been sliding past that very word for weeks. You swore to me, by the cat's own fire, you were keeping tangling back for a night further up the hill.
I did, and you've a long memory for my debts. This is the night I settle it. Sit in close, because the first step is the one everyone's boot skids on, and I want your full weight planted on it before we so much as move.
Lay the first stone, then. What is it? Two particles, tangled?
Cast your mind all the way back to the wave of possibility. That thing from early on, the one that carries every maybe at once, the whole spread folded together until a look snaps it down to a single answer. That was one particle, one wave. Now bring me two particles, and here is the move that starts everything. Prepare them together. Born of the same event, in the same breath, and handled right, they do not get a wave each. They get one wave. A single wave for the pair of them.
One wave for the two of them. Hold on. I'd always have said two particles, two waves, sat politely side by side, each minding its own business. You're telling me the pair share the one object.
That's the pin the whole night hangs from, so let me say it slowly. It is not, this one is in such and such a state, and that one is in such and such a state, and we've merely laid the two descriptions next to one another. There is no clean, this one's answer and that one's answer to be pulled apart at all. There is one description, and it belongs to the pair. And folded up inside it, whatever's left undecided about the one is bound, laced, welded, to whatever's left undecided about the other.
Bound? How? Put the picture in my hands where I can turn it over.
Say each particle, when you finally get round to measuring it, can come out one of two ways. Call them heads or tails. Never mind what the real quantity is underneath. On their own, before anyone looks, neither one is heads and neither one is tails. No fact of the matter yet, the honest blur you've bled over all season. But the shared wave carries a promise about the pair. Whatever the one turns out to be, the other will be found to match it. Not very likely. Every single time.
So neither of them owns an answer, and yet the two answers are somehow sworn to agree. That already smells of a card up a sleeve. How can they promise to match if neither one has decided?
Because the promise doesn't live in either particle. It lives in the wave they share between them. Neither one is carrying a little hidden slip of paper with heads already written on it. What they carry, between the two of them, is the bond, the guarantee of agreement, with the answer itself still wide open, right up until the instant one of them is looked at.
Then let me try to trip you. Is it not just that each holds half the answer? The pair split down the middle, and I'm only ever seeing my half.
A fair grab. And no, it isn't two halves that add to a whole. Each one, taken on its own, is the full blur. Completely undecided, top to bottom, nothing hidden inside it at all. There's no half a fact in your particle and half in mine. The wholeness, the answer, the settledness, belongs only to the pair, considered together. Split them in your mind, and the answer isn't split. It simply isn't anywhere yet.
The answer isn't in either one, and it isn't shared out between them, it's in the joining. All right, then I do the deed. I look at mine.
You look at yours, and it snaps. The same snap from the measuring nights, the whole fan of maybes crashing down to a single dot. Say you find heads. In that same instant, the question is settled for both. And your partner particle, however far you've carried it off by now, the next room, the next town, the far side of a distant star, that partner is now bound to show the very same face the moment anyone troubles to look. The pair's one answer arrived all at once, for the two of them together, though only one of you was doing any looking.
And does the bond tire with the miles? Carry the partner far enough, across a valley, across the black gulf between the stars? Surely it frays, the way every other tie in the world frays with distance.
That's the sting of the thing. Distance does nothing. Nothing at all. The bond is not a force strung between them, thinning as they part. Not a rope that stretches, not a lamp that dims with the square of the reach. There is no thread there to fray in the first place. Whatever binds the pair does not live in the space between them, so the space between them has no purchase on it. A single step apart, or the whole width of creation, the matching comes back exactly, stubbornly, maddeningly the same.
The same instant, no matter the distance. That's the bit that ought to be flatly impossible. Surely something had to race across from mine to yours to tell it, quick, be heads.
Hold that exact thought. Write it on the back of your hand, because it's the very one we'll spend the last of the morning killing, carefully and for good. For now, just this much. Nothing raced across in any way you could ever catch or clock or use. The two answers are bound. They are not the one sent to the other. But I'll not ask you to take that on my say-so tonight. I mean to earn it. And to earn it, I first have to show you the thing's real strangeness, which means I have to let you try to make it ordinary.
Make it ordinary? You've spent a whole season making everything stranger by the week. Now you want to hand me the way out?
The honest road in runs straight through the best road out. There's an objection to all this so clean, so sensible, that if you don't feel the full pull of it, you'll never grasp what it costs to defeat it. So go on, be the skeptic. I've just sworn to you that two far apart things always match. Deflate me.
Easily, and I'm half embarrassed on your behalf. This isn't spooky in the slightest. It's a pair of gloves. I take a left glove and a right glove, drop each into its own box, seal the pair up, ship one box off to the far side of the world, and keep the other on my knee. I open mine, I see the left, and in that very instant I know, dead certain, that the far box holds the right. Nothing reached across anything. The answer was fixed the moment I packed them. I've only just now found out.
Go on, twist the knife properly, because it's a good one.
The "in that instant" is the cheat. There's the knife. Nothing happened to the far glove when I opened mine. It was the right glove all along, sitting there being the right glove in the dark, whether I ever opened a single box or not. My knowing changed not one thing out there. It only changed me, from a man who didn't know into a man who does. So where's your spook? Two particles, packed to agree, carried apart, open one and learn the other. That's not the deep secret of creation. That's tidy luggage.
And had you said exactly that to a certain room full of the century's finest minds, you'd have found the greatest of them nodding along with you. Hard. Because what you just did, sat there smug behind your gloves, is very nearly word for word the case that Einstein himself made. You're in the finest company you will ever keep for being a skeptic. Let me give him to you properly. He sharpened it harder than you just did.
The Einstein again. Go on then, what were his gloves?
He looked at this same setup. Two particles born together, carried apart, their answers forever matching, and he drew the only sane conclusion a reasonable man could draw. The answers, he said, must have been real the whole time. Each particle left home already carrying its own result, written down, settled, private, the way your glove is the left glove even in the sealed dark. The matching is no miracle at all. They were stamped to agree before they ever parted. Nothing needs to reach across space at the moment of the look, because there is nothing left over to decide.
Which is my luggage exactly, only wearing a better coat. So what did he call the other story, yours, the one where nothing's decided until I look?
He called it spooky action at a distance. And he did not mean it with any warmth. To him, the notion that looking at your particle could reach out and settle your partner's a world away in the very same breath, that wasn't physics, that was a ghost story. It broke the deepest rule he knew in his bones, that nothing, no push, no whisper, no influence of any kind, outruns light. And so he reached the conclusion that gives this whole night its spine. If the theory truly claims the answers aren't there until you look, then the theory itself must be unfinished, incomplete, missing the hidden pages where the real, settled answers were written down all along.
But that's a leap, isn't it? From "they always match" to "the answers were sitting there the whole time." What gave him the right to make it where you'd have me hold my hand?
A principle, and a fine one. Hear it, for it's the true spine of his whole case. If you can predict a thing for certain, in advance, without disturbing it in the slightest, and you can, the far answer, dead sure, the very moment you've read the near one, then that thing, he said, must be real, already there, a genuine element of the world, not conjured into being by your look. It sounds airtight. It so very nearly is. And from it he drew the only conclusion he could bear. If the theory leaves that real, waiting answer out of its account, then the theory is missing pages.
Missing pages? He thought the quantum picture was a rough draft of something tidier.
A rough draft of a deeper, calmer truth. One where every particle carries its full private ledger, and there's no dice, no spook, no ghostly reach across the void. That's the man behind the line you've known your whole life. God does not play dice. He simply could not stomach a universe that left real facts genuinely unsettled, and then leaned on a spooky thread strung between distant things to keep its story straight.
And I have to say, sat here, that doesn't sound like a crank. It sounds like the most reasonable man in the room.
Because he was. I want you to feel how thoroughly not foolish this is. It is the voice of the deepest common sense we own. Things are where they carry what they carry, and nothing here touches something there for free. Every instinct in your body votes with Einstein. And mark this, so you never paint him a fool. He never once doubted the experiments. He doubted the story. He trusted the matching completely. He only refused to believe there was no settled reason sitting behind it.
So he wasn't fighting the facts, he was fighting the idea that the facts had no roots.
That's him exactly. He wanted the roots put back, the hidden, local, settled answers, and a finished theory to hold them. A principled stand, and a proud one. So now we've two stories, and both of them fit every fact I've handed you so far. Yours, one shared wave, nothing decided until a look. His, two private ledgers, everything settled at the packing, and the shared wave, just a grand name for our ignorance of what's already down on paper.
And was he alone out on that limb, or did he have company? A lone giant digging his heels in is one thing, a whole camp of them is quite another.
Far from alone. The finest minds of his day split clean down the middle over it, and some of the very best stood squarely at his shoulder, every one of them reaching for the same handrail, that the world must be built of local, settled facts, and that nothing here reaches across to touch something there for free. It was never one stubborn man against the tide. It was the deepest instinct of a whole generation of geniuses, lined up in good faith behind a bet the universe was quietly about to win off them.
And I'll be honest with you, he's winning. His is the one I'd bet the farm on and walk home whistling.
As would any soul with their feet on the ground. And here is the thing that makes this the greatest story in the whole trade. For a long, long while, there was no way to tell the two apart. Both stories predict the matching. Both explain every experiment anyone could think up to run. It looked, for decades, like a plain matter of taste. Believe in the shared wave or believe in the hidden ledgers. Take your pick, because nothing you could ever measure would catch the two of them disagreeing.
A question with no experiment standing behind it. That's philosophy, not physics. You told me so yourself, weeks back by this same grate.
I did. And for 30-odd years, the wisest heads in the trade agreed it was exactly that. A barroom argument between geniuses. Unwinnable. Best left well alone while the grown-ups got on with real calculations.
But something changed, or you'd not have that look on you. So what cracked it open?
One man, who quietly refused to leave it alone. Bell. He took the argument that everybody knew could never be settled, this deep, this stubborn, this hopeless, and he found the hairline crack in it. He found a way to make Einstein's own bet stand up and be counted.
Counted how? You just swore to me both stories give the very same matching. Where's the daylight between them left to measure?
Right in the one place nobody had thought to look, because everybody had only ever asked the two particles the same question. Here is Bell's move, and it's so simple it stings. Stop measuring both particles the same way. Give each of your two far-apart experimenters a dial, a choice of directions they can measure along, a tilt they set fresh for every pair, however the whim takes them. Sometimes the two happen to pick the same tilt. Often they pick different ones.
Wait, before you run on, a free hand on the dial, you say? How free, exactly? Could the far particle not somehow catch wind, in advance, of which way its own dial was about to be turned, and pack its answers to suit?
A sharp worry, and the experimenters lost real sleep over exactly it. So they make each choice late and apart, every side flipping its own dial at the last possible breath, too late and too far off for any word of the one choice to reach the other before the measuring's done and dusted. No prearranged collusion, no sly whisper of, he'll pick this, so I'll answer that. The two decisions are walled clean off from one another, and building that wall high enough to satisfy the doubters took years of hard, patient work.
And why should the dial matter a jot? A glove is a glove at any angle you please.
That is the entire game. Hold tight to it, because now, over thousands upon thousands of pairs, you don't merely ask, did they match? You ask how the matching depends on the way the two dials were set. And watch what Einstein's story is forced to promise the moment you allow the dials to move. Suppose every particle left home carrying its full private ledger. Then it can't just carry an answer for one direction.
No, it can't know which way I'll turn the dial, so it has to come ready for all of them.
It has to come ready for all of them. An answer packed for every tilt the experimenter might ever choose. Every one written down before it left. Locked in. Local, private. Carried, not sent. Hold that particle in your mind. A little thing lugging a whole book of pre-written answers, one for each angle.
A thorough piece of luggage. Fine. Where does that book bite it?
Here, and this is the beating heart of Bell, so go slow with me. If the answers are all written in advance, then the different ways the two particles can agree are not free of one another. They're chained together by plain logic, because they're all drawn from the same fixed books. And when you add up how strongly the pair agrees across the whole spread of dial settings, that chaining puts a ceiling on the total. A ceiling that any collection of pre-written private books must sit beneath. Being decided in advance is a straitjacket, and the straitjacket caps how much agreement you can spread around.
Now, hold on. You've gone quick on me right at the crucial turn. Why should writing the answers down in advance cap anything? Make me feel that.
Then picture just 3 possible tilts. Call them 1, 2, and 3. If each particle carries a fixed answer for all 3, packed at the start, then those 3 answers can't help stepping on each other's toes. Suppose the answer for tilt 1 agrees with the answer for tilt 2, and tilt 2 agrees with tilt 3. Then 1 and 3 are forced into a corner about how much they are allowed to disagree. The 3 settings can't all quarrel with each other as fiercely as they'd like. They share the same underlying answers, so their agreements are roped together whether they will or no.
Because they're all reading off the one fixed page, so the preset answers trip over their own feet. They can't all disagree strongly at once. The plain arithmetic of written down in advance won't let them.
You've got it clean. That mutual tripping up is the ceiling. And mark what it rests on. It isn't a fact about gloves, or particles especially. It's a fact about any answers that were fixed ahead of time and can't reach across to consult one another mid-measurement. Pre-arrangement has a maximum agreement it can spread across different questions, and Bell worked out exactly how high that maximum stands.
A ceiling built by pure logic out of the answers were already there. And I can feel where you're driving me. You're about to say the shared wave story, yours, pokes its head clean over it.
Quantum mechanics predicts you sail straight over it. Take real entangled pairs. One shared wave, no pre-written books anywhere. Turn the 2 dials through all their paces, tally the agreement across every combination of settings, and the theory says the total climbs higher than any private ledger world could ever reach. Higher than the ceiling. The one shared wave produces a kind of agreement across the different questions that no pair of stamped, separate gloves could ever fake. Not with any packing, however fiendishly clever.
And you're sure no cleverer packing sneaks over that ceiling? Some fiendish set of pre-written books nobody's thought to try yet that just squeaks past the line?
That is the whole beauty of what Bell proved, and I'd not blame you a bit for doubting it, because it sounds far too strong to be true. The ceiling does not care how clever the packing is. It follows from nothing whatsoever except this, that the answers were fixed in advance and that neither side can reach across to the other. Any scheme that obeys those 2 plain conditions Every one that could ever be dreamt up, the fiendish alongside the dull, sits under that line. There is simply no loophole left in the logic to be clever through. If the answers were local and preset, the ceiling holds. Full stop and no appeal.
So now, at last, the two stories disagree. Out loud, on something you could actually walk into a room and measure.
On something you can measure with tables and tallies, and not one scrap of philosophy. That is what Bell did. He took, is reality made of local private facts or of shared spooky waves? The very question I told you was pub talk, and he turned it into, go and count the agreements and see whether the total sits under the ceiling or over it. He built a doorway between the argument and the laboratory.
I keep waiting for the catch in this. You're truly telling me a question this deep, what reality itself is made of, bows down to a clerk with a tally sheet?
To a clerk with a tally sheet, and nothing grander than that. No towering instrument, no genius wanted at the counting. Only honesty and patience and a long, dull column of plain results. That is the quiet miracle folded up inside Bell's little idea. He reached up and dragged the deepest question we owned, down out of the clouds and onto a page a bookkeeper could settle before his supper. The most profound thing there is, decided by the most ordinary act there is, tallying how often two columns of answers happen to agree.
And that's the genius of it, isn't it? Not that he answered the question, that he made the question answerable at all.
That's the deepest kind of move there is in the whole trade, and you've put your finger square on it. He didn't win the argument between the two giants. He did something better. He ended it by handing it to the world to judge, in numbers, with nobody's opinion allowed a vote. 30 years of unwinnable quarrel, and he gave it a scoreboard.
Then don't you dare make me sit here waiting. Somebody ran it. Somebody turned the dials and counted the agreements. Who won?
Somebody ran it. Carefully, obsessively, closing off every last loophole a doubter could name. Over years, in room after room, with better pairs and greater distances between the two dials. And the answer came back. And it has never once wavered since.
And?
Nature sails clean over the ceiling, every single time. The agreements pile up higher than any world of pre-written private books could ever produce, right up where quantum mechanics swore they'd be, and clean past the limit that any local pre-arrangement is bound to obey. The shared wave was telling the truth. The hidden ledgers were never there.
Over the ceiling every time, you say, but you're certain it's not just a wobble at the very edge. A trick of the statistics that melts away the longer and harder you look.
No wobble. That is precisely what the years and the room after room after room were for. If it were a fluke, more counting would wash it clean out, and more counting has only ever driven it home the harder. This is not nature brushing her fingertips against the ceiling and dipping shyly back below it. It is nature clearing that ceiling by a country mile, over and over, in every honest hand that has ever run the thing. It is about as far from a statistical shrug as physics is ever once permitted to get.
Say that to me plainly, because I want to be dead sure I've caught the full size of it. The gloves are dead?
The gloves are dead, and here is exactly why it was never gloves. I want this one nailed to the wall over the door. A glove is the right glove in the dark, carrying its own settled fact, needing nobody to look. If the particles had been gloves, each with its own pre-written book, the agreements simply could not have climbed over Bell's ceiling. But they did climb over it. So the particles were not carrying their own settled answers. There was no fact of heads sitting hidden inside your particle, patiently waiting for you to come and uncover it. The answer genuinely was not there, until the look. And still, the far apart partner matched it.
So the thing that felt airtight my luggage, his hidden pages, the whole tidy business, it isn't merely unproven. It's ruled out by counting.
Ruled out. And now let me guard you against the last soft version of the mistake, because it's the one that survives everything else. Don't say, well, perhaps we simply haven't found the hidden pages yet. That is not it. The point is far harder than that. If the hidden pages existed, if the answers really had been written in advance, then the counting would have to come out under the ceiling. It came out over. So it isn't that the pages are undiscovered, it's that pages of that kind cannot exist at all. Their very possibility is what got ruled out.
Not we looked and couldn't find them. They cannot be there, or the numbers would come out different. That's a colder, harder thing entirely.
The coldest, hardest thing in the whole of physics, and one of the surest. The world was asked, in its own plain language, whether the answers were written in advance. And the world said, no. One shared wave, real. Two particles, one state, no separate ledgers hiding anywhere, and a matching that no pre-agreement in all of creation could have arranged beforehand.
Then here it is, the moment I climbed the hill grinning for. Einstein, the Einstein. Wrong. The steadiest hand in the whole trade bet the farm on the gloves, and the universe turned over its cards, and he had lost.
Wrong about the gloves. Don't you dare stop the sentence there, or you'll have learned nothing on this hill tonight. He was wrong about the hidden ledgers, flatly, provably wrong. But turn the thing over in your hand. What he was defending was the most reasonable thing a mind can love. That the world is built of local facts, sitting where they sit, untroubled by distant goings-on. He bet on common sense itself, and the universe called common sense's bluff. He was wrong about the reason, and dead right that there was something here that ought to keep a person up at night. Reality really is stitched together more tightly than sense allows. He felt that thread pulling, and it unsettled him clean to the end of his days. And he was right to be unsettled.
He smelled the smoke true, pointed at the wrong fire.
That's the whole of the man in a line, and it's an honourable place for a giant to end up. The lesser fate is to be boringly right. He got to be interestingly, profoundly, world-changingly wrong. And the questions his wrongness forced open are the very reason we now know what we know. There's no shame anywhere in that story, only depth.
And it wasn't stubbornness for its own sake, was it? He kept the argument going for the right reason, to hold the theory's feet to the fire.
That's the grace of it. He pressed the sharpest objection anyone had precisely because he took the theory seriously enough to try to break it. And by pressing it that hard, he handed the next man the exact crack that could be tested. A giant's wrong bet laid down so cleanly that a smaller man could finally settle it. The trade owes him for the question every bit as much as it owes Bell for the answer.
But now I'm up off my chair because you've handed me something enormous and I mean to use it. If looking at my particle settles my partners in the same instant, a world away, then we've beaten light, haven't we? I sit here, you sit out by a distant star, we each hold one of a pair. I look, and bang, your particle knows it in the same breath. That's a telegraph faster than anything alive. That's a message flung across the galaxy with no waiting. Tell me we can text faster than light. Tell me I've just watched you break the speed limit.
No. And this is the fence I will die defending. So hear every last word of it. Because right here is where every excited soul who ever met this thing goes straight over a cliff, and I will not let you follow them down. You cannot send a single bit of a message this way. Not one. The speed limit stands untouched, unbruised, exactly where Einstein left it, which is the last quiet joke of the whole night. The man was wrong about the gloves, and the very law he was so desperate to protect walks away without a scratch.
No, I'll not give it up as easily as that. There's an instant effect, you admit it yourself, right there across the void. Nature's handed me a lever a whole world long. Why in heaven can't I pull it?
Because it's a lever with no handle on your end. Go on, reach for the grip, the thing you'd lay hold of to push your message through, and your hand closes on empty air. The effect is real enough. There's simply no knob upon it you can turn. That's the cruelty and the cleverness of it both, in the one stroke. The universe hands you the wire, and files every last switch clean off it. Let me show you exactly where the switch ought to sit, and plainly doesn't.
But you said it, plainly. The instant I look, my partner's settled. That's an effect, at a distance, right now. How in the world is that not a message?
Because of the one thing you keep quietly forgetting, and it is everything. You do not get to choose what you find. When you look at your particle, the answer that comes up, heads or tails, is pure coin flip. Random. Feynman's own dice, and you, the beggar at the table, taking whatever gets thrown. You cannot make it come up heads. You cannot nudge it, coax it, aim it, lean on it. It lands where it lands, and you simply read off what you got. Now, if you cannot control your own answer, what could you possibly spell out at the far end of the line?
Then let me be greedy about it. What if I look 1,000 times over and build a pattern on my side, a rhythm of heads and tails I lay down just so, and trust the matching to carry my rhythm across to him?
But you can't lay it down. That's the whole cage you keep rattling. Every one of your 1,000 looks is its own fresh, blind coin flip. You can no more compose a rhythm out of them than you could spell your own name in the tossing of an honest coin. Your side comes out an even, patternless hash no matter what you do, no matter how badly you want it otherwise. There's no rhythm there for the matching to carry over, because you were never once able to author one in the first place.
But when mine lands, his lands to match. Surely I can wring some signal out of that.
Look at it from his chair, out by the star. He holds his particle. He looks. He gets a random answer. Heads or tails, coin flip, no rhyme to it whatsoever. The very same featureless noise whether you, back home, have already looked or haven't, whether you looked an hour ago or never bothered at all. And out across that gulf, there isn't even a fact of the matter about which of you looked first. There is nothing in his run of results, nothing he can measure, nothing he can hold up to the light, that tells him you did a single thing. His side, taken all on its own, is pure static. Always.
Then where in heaven's name is the matching? You keep swearing to me they agree perfectly, past any ceiling, and now you tell me both sides are just noise. Both of those cannot be true at once.
Both are true, and holding the two of them together is the whole subtle heart of the thing. His list is random noise, your list is random noise, but lay the two lists down side by side, line up which pair was which, and run down them together, and there is the matching, blazing straight up out of the page. Your heads against his heads, your tails against his tails, agreeing far past any ceiling every step of the way. The eeriness was never in either list on its own. It was in the pairing of them.
So the spook isn't in his particle, and it isn't in mine. It's hiding inside the comparison of the two.
Inside the comparison, and nowhere else. And you cannot ever see a pairing with only one of the two lists in your hand. To find the matching at all, his list and yours have to be brought into the same place and set down next to each other.
So to lay eyes on the spook, I need his list carried over to sit beside mine.
You need his list carried to yours. And how does his list get to you? By post, by wire, by radio, by a runner on the road, by light itself, by some perfectly ordinary message crawling across the space between you at the same speed everything else crawls, and no faster. The matching is real. It's sitting there in the data, waiting. But it stays invisible until the two halves are brought together. And bringing them together is a journey light has to make, the long, slow way, like anything else.
So the secret can't outrun light, because you can't even read the secret without a light-speed errand first.
You've said it better than I did. Reading the secret at all requires that errand. The correlation is laid across the gulf in an instant, perfect and real. But the key to seeing it gets posted to you at the ordinary crawl, no faster than a beam.
So the message I wanted to fling across the galaxy actually lives in the comparison. And the comparison can't happen until his half plods all the way over to mine at the same tired old speed as everything else in the world.
There's the whole of it, and I couldn't set it down better myself. The universe will happily let you be correlated across any gulf you like, instantly, perfectly, bound tighter than common sense has any right to allow. It just flatly refuses to let you be clever with it. You can share the eeriest thread in all creation with a soul out by a far-off star, and you still cannot use it to tell them who won the race one heartbeat sooner than a plain beam of light could have carried the news for you.
So the honest headline is this: the two are a matched pair of dice, not a telephone.
A matched pair of dice, thrown far apart, and found afterward to have fallen the same way, more faithfully than any loaded pair could ever manage. That is the whole of it, and it is wonder enough for any one night. But a telephone wants a mouthpiece, some place where you decide what goes down the line. These dice have no mouthpiece anywhere on them. You don't choose the roll, you only ever read it off after. So marvel at the matching to your heart's content, only never once mistake a pair of dice, however uncanny their agreement, for a line you can talk down.
Correlated, not clever. That's almost cruel of it.
It's exactly fair, is what it is. And I want to swing one last door shut before you lean your weight on it wrong. Don't walk out of here saying, looking at mine changes his, or, I did something to his particle from across the void. You didn't. You can't. There is no lever anywhere in your hand that reaches his. No way to steer his result. No way to make his read heads on purpose. No way to touch it at all. The two are bound. They are not the one steering the other. The right words are, they agree, never, I made them agree. Correlation, deep and real and proven to the hilt. Control, none whatsoever.
Bound, not steered. They agree, I don't make them agree. I've got it, and I'll not go muddling the pair of them.
And here's the part that ought to give you a shiver of a different kind. Because it isn't a lucky accident that the universe left the door shut. It's welded shut. The very randomness that frustrated you, that you cannot choose your own answer, is the same fact that saves the speed limit. If you could steer your outcome, you could spell out a message and light would be beaten. Because you can't steer it, no message can pass. Take away the randomness and relativity falls. Keep the randomness and it stands. The two are one fact wearing two faces.
So the coin flip I was cursing a minute ago, that's not a nuisance at all. That's the guard standing on the gate.
The guard on the gate. The very thing that stops you being clever is the very thing that keeps the whole edifice from tearing itself apart. The universe binds its far-flung parts together tighter than any story you'd have believed. And in the same breath, with the same fact, it forbids you to send one whisper faster than light, both at once. That pair of truths, living together without a quarrel, that is the wonder of the thing.
So it isn't that relativity and the quantum are at war under the table, and one of them secretly bluffing. They've gone and signed a treaty.
A treaty drawn up so carefully that neither one gives an inch. The quantum keeps its perfect, instant, faraway matching. Every last thing Einstein swore blind was impossible. And relativity keeps its speed limit whole and unbruised. Every last thing Einstein swore was sacred. The two live under the one roof without a raised voice, because at the single spot where they might have collided, the randomness stands quietly on guard. It is not a truce that could break tomorrow on some cleverer experiment. It is welded into the very joints of the thing. And that, far more than any one number, is what ought to leave you sitting very still.
Deeply, provably interconnected, and the speed limit never so much as trembles. And if I press you on the deeper thing, what all this says the world really is, underneath the numbers,
Then I'll tell you honestly it splits the very same honest people along the very same lines you met on the measuring nights. And I will crown none of them here either. But keep hold of what is not in dispute, what the counting settled for good and all. The answers were not written in advance. The far apart results match anyway, and no soul can push a single whisper through it faster than light. That much is bedrock. Everything above it is the old, open argument.
bedrock, and then the old dark above it. That much I can carry down the hill without dropping it.
And that's the honest shape of the whole business. I'll not dress it up as more. I pointed you at the ceiling. I never wrote you its exact height, nor handed you the tally of just how far nature overshoots it. Those are real numbers, hard won in cold rooms. Tonight I only needed you to feel the shape of the argument, that a limit exists, that prearrangement is bound to obey it, and that the world blows straight past it.
Pointed, not delivered. You've done that trick all season. Leave the machinery under the cloth and cash me the shape of the thing.
And it's the right trade nearly every time. A shape you truly understand will hold your weight for a lifetime. A number you can't yet place slips straight out of your pocket by the foot of the hill.
Then let me sit a moment with the plain size of what you've done to me tonight before you reach for whatever door you've got a hand behind already. The world is bound together, really provably bound, across any distance you please. Two things, one wave, matching past all sense, and Einstein, of all people, the one who saw it clearest and hated it most.
He saw it clearest of anyone. That's the part the telling always forgets when it laughs at the wrong ending. Nobody was more right that this thing was strange enough to matter. He simply couldn't bring himself to believe the strangeness went all the way down to the floor. And it does. It goes all the way down.
So what's behind the door then? I can see you've got that other look on you, the one you always wear with a hand already resting on a nicer handle. You didn't haul me up the hill in the frost just to leave me staring at a bound and spooky universe. There's a gift queued up behind your teeth. I can see it, plain as morning.
There is. And it's the last one, because next week is the last night on this hill. The whole climb, every mile of it, has quietly been walking toward the one idea I've saved for the finish.
The last night. Then don't be coy with me now. What's the last idea?
All season long, every single night, I've said the electron, the photon, as though each were a thing, a little ball of stuff, a tiny marble small enough to lose down the cracks of the floor. And I've let you picture it just so, because it carried us this far. But the deepest layer we've got says it is not so. Not a marble at all.
Not a little ball. Then what, in heaven's name, is an electron?
A ripple in an ocean that fills the whole of space, everywhere at once, in every corner of this room and the world and the dark between the stars, never truly empty anywhere. The electron is a stirring, a swell, a ripple raised up on that one endless sea.
An ocean. But an ocean of what? Water I can dip a hand into. What is this sea made of that fills a room I'd have sworn to you was empty?
Now you've gone and asked next week's whole question in half a dozen words, and I'll only wet your toes in it tonight. The sea isn't made of anything more basic beneath it. It is the basic thing. Where it lies flat and still, you call it empty space, and you think nothing whatever is there. Where it heaves itself up into a ripple, You call that ripple an electron, and you think a thing is there. But it was the one sea all along, calm in the one place, stirred in the other. Emptiness and particle, two moods, of a single ocean.
An ocean that fills all of space, and the electron just a wave riding on it.
And here's where an old promise comes home. Cast your mind back a couple of weeks, when I swore to you, and you could barely credit it, that no two electrons anywhere can ever be told apart. Not by you, not by the finest instrument ever ground, not even by nature herself, keeping her own private books. No scratch, no serial number, nothing.
The identical ones. Truly identical, not a whisker between them. I remember it prickling the hair on the back of my neck.
Now you'll see why. They're identical because they are not separate little things that merely happen to be alike. They are all ripples on the same ocean, the same water, stirred in two places. Ask which stretch of the sea is this wave and which is that wave, and you'll find nature keeps no such ledger, because there was only ever the one sea. And a photon, another ocean, another kind of ripple entirely, laid over the same endless space.
Then two electrons in that ocean aren't like two apples off the one tree. They're more like two swells crossing the same pond. And you can't hold up the one and say, this is the one I want kept, throw the other back.
Not two apples, two swells on the one water, and ask nature herself to tag them, this swell and that one, keep a ledger with their two names in separate columns, and she simply hasn't got the book to do it in. There aren't two little things underneath, being alike. There is one sea, moving in two places at once. That is what identical was straining to tell you all along, back when it prickled the hair on your neck. Not merely alike to the last atom. Something far deeper and far stranger. Not truly two things in the first place.
Then tonight's shared wave, two particles, one joint state, the thing we spent the whole morning on,
starts to look a great deal less like a miracle, and a great deal more like a hint of what's coming. If the two were never truly separate little marbles to begin with, if underneath they're both just stirrings of the one connected sea, then a single wave for the pair of them is a far smaller outrage than it seemed by the fire tonight. But that is next week's whole business, and I'll not go spending it early.
Everything is fields.
Everything is fields. Next time, what the world is actually made of, right down at the bottom, beneath the electron and the photon, and the very grain that Planck first cornered us with on the very first night. The last idea, and the one this entire climb has been quietly aimed at from the start.
Then keep your bound and spooky pair warm there by the grate, and keep that endless ocean at a low tide till I'm back, because I came up this hill to see Einstein caught out for once, and I'm going down it with something far stranger in my pocket than a great man's mistake. A world laced together too tight for common sense, a thread I can share clear across the stars and never once pull. And a quiet promise from you that even that was only ever ripples on one sea I've yet to lay my eyes on. I'll be at your door before the birds.